For 24 years, she silenced attorneys and destroyed lives, until one man flipped the script and had her arrested in her own courtroom. The air inside the Montgomery County Courthouse in Jackson, Mississippi, felt thick, not from the humidity outside, but from something heavier. An unspoken truth had settled into the very walls over the decades. Everyone who walked through those heavy oak doors knew how things worked in Judge Eleanor Whitmore's courtroom. She was the kind of judge who rarely looked over her reading glasses, her sharp eyes slicing through attorneys like they were nothing more than nuisances. She spoke in a measured tone, never raising her voice, but the authority in it crushed anyone who dared push back. Whitmore had been on the bench for 24 years, long enough to leave a legacy. Not the kind carved into plaques or celebrated in law schools, but the kind whispered about in hallways, discussed in hushed tones at bar association meetings. Attorneys, especially black attorneys, knew exactly what they were up against when their case landed in her courtroom. The rulings always seemed to lean one way. The objections she sustained or overruled followed a pattern. No one could prove it, but everyone understood it. And today, that pattern was about to be tested. Jamal Carter stepped into the courtroom, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor. He had been here before, but today was different. He wasn't just another defense attorney standing before Judge Whitmore. He wasn't just another name on the docket. Today, he had something she didn't see coming. Jamal was 48 years old, a man who had built his career on taking the cases no one wanted. His reputation stretched far beyond Mississippi, and his ability to dismantle a prosecution's case made him a target for people like Whitmore. But that never stopped him. What did stop him, just for a second, was the look in her eyes when he walked toward the defense table. She already hated him, not because of the case, not because of anything he had said, but because he was him. Jamal felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just about his client, Malcolm Briggs, a man falsely accused of armed robbery. This wasn't just about proving innocence. This was about something much bigger. And he wasn't leaving this courtroom without making that clear. Mr. Carter, Judge Whitmore said, barely acknowledging him as she scanned the paperwork in front of her. You're already on thin ice in my courtroom. Don't waste my time today. There was no reason for her to say that. They hadn't even started. Jamal tightened his grip on his briefcase, but kept his expression unreadable. I'll try not to, Your Honor. Whitmore smirked. Good, because I have a full docket, and I don't need theatrics. She turned to the prosecution, an eager young assistant district attorney named Christopher Delaney, fresh out of law school, trying too hard to impress the wrong people. The state is ready, Your Honor, Delaney said, casting a smug glance in Jamal's direction. Of course they were ready. They were always ready when the case was stacked against a black man. Jamal's client sat beside him, hands folded, shoulders hunched forward, the kind of posture that belonged to someone who had been in the system too long. He had seen too much, heard too much, lost too much. Jamal leaned in slightly. We're ready too, he said, loud enough for the whole courtroom to hear. Whitmore exhaled through her nose. Let's get this over with. The trial began, but it wasn't a trial. It was a performance. And Judge Whitmore had the starring role. Every objection Jamal raised was dismissed without a thought. Every time Delaney stumbled over a legal argument, she guided him like a teacher correcting a favorite student. The jury noticed. The gallery noticed. But no one was brave enough to say anything. Except Jamal. He studied her. The way her lips curled when he spoke, the way she barely concealed her contempt. It wasn't just bias. It was something worse. Something he had spent years preparing for. Jamal had been in hostile courtrooms before. But this was different. Whitmore wasn't even trying to hide it. Every time he spoke, she cut him off. Every time he raised a valid argument, she waved it away like a fly buzzing near her ear. The courtroom had its own rhythm. Lawyers spoke, judges ruled, the jury listened. But in this courtroom, Whitmore had decided the verdict before the trial even began. Jamal caught the jury's discomfort, the way they shifted in their seats. Even some of the white jurors, who might have come in with their own preconceived notions, couldn't ignore what was happening. But Judge Whitmore didn't care. She doubled down. Her words grew sharper each time she addressed him. Mr. Carter, you're testing my patience. Mr. Carter, if you raise one more baseless objection, I'll hold you in contempt. Mr. Carter, this is not a lecture hall. If you want a grandstand, do it somewhere else. Jamal kept his expression calm. But inside his blood was boiling. Not because she was insulting him. He could handle that. But because she was making it personal. And that was a mistake. Still, he needed her to keep talking. To keep exposing herself. Your Honor, he said, his voice measured. The prosecution just introduced evidence that was not disclosed in discovery. That's a clear violation of Brady v. Maryland. A move for an immediate mistrial. Whitmore leaned back in her chair, adjusting her glasses with exaggerated boredom. Denied. Jamal blinked, but not out of surprise. Out of strategy. He let a bead of silence hang in the air before speaking again. To be clear, Your Honor, you're refusing to acknowledge a Brady violation? Whitmore's lips pursed. I said denied, Mr. Carter. He could feel the courtroom shifting, the reporters scribbling faster, the whispers in the gallery growing louder. She saw it too. Her eyes darkened, and for the first time, she looked directly at him. You are dangerously close to being held in contempt, Mr. Carter. Jamal tilted his head slightly. For what, Your Honor? Asking the court to follow the law. Whitmore slammed her gavel so hard that the sound echoed against the high ceilings. That's enough. One more word, and I'll have you removed. The room was dead silent. And then, the heavy double doors swung open. 2 federal agents strode in, their movements crisp, purposeful. Judge Whitmore's eyes flickered with confusion. Then irritation. What is the meaning of this? She demanded. One of the agents, a tall man with a clipped demeanor, flashed a badge. Judge Eleanor Whitmore, we need to speak with you immediately. She squared her shoulders. I am in the middle of a trial. It's urgent. And just like that, the courtroom shifted. Justice had finally arrived. And Judge Eleanor Whitmore never saw it coming.